On Monday, March the 28th, a lecture entitled Mathematical Unusual Presentations by Dirk Huylebrouck was held at the hall of Albacete at Sabuco High School. It was not a traditional math talk, but an entertaining and a spectacular show where unusual methods to understand maths were presented. Without using a single mathematical formula, Huylebrouck proposed a laser light setup to visualize Pascal's theorem for conics using simple laser pointers and cigarette smoke. He presented a mathematical ice cream inspired by the theorem of Dandelin. He stated that the conic section of a plane and a cone touches inscribed spheres in the foci. He also displayed naked hyperbolic surfaces using paper strings made from newspapers. He made a Klein bottle with a plastic shopping bag and a roll of bread, visualizing its seemingly magical properties, and prepared hexagonal and L-shaped fried potatoes for mathematically justified healthy and unhealthy reasons. Some examples were shown in short movies, such as images of a zero-gravity flight made with the European Space Agency. Most demonstrations were performed live, with direct, coactive audiences' participation. The conference was a masterclass of audiovisual communication, a kind of magic show where the tricks were not performed with rabbits, but with mathematics. Abracadabra. Dirk Huylebrouck is a prestigious Belgian mathematician who has been teaching maths to architects at the University of St. Lucas in Brussels since 1996. But his curriculum seems more like that of an explorer than of a math teacher. He spent nearly 8 years teaching at the universities of Bukavu and Kinshasa in the Congo Zaire. He also attended the University of Aveiro in Portugal, and he was at the European section at the University of Maryland in Belgium and Germany. He has also taught at universities in Boston, Brussels, Ghent, and in the European Business School. Then he returned to the University of Burundi in Africa, where he remained until the year 1994, when his contract was terminated due to the Rwandan genocide. His passion and fascination for maths is reflected in his research in the field of linear algebra, analytic theory of numbers, geometry, theory of proportion, and it is also reflected in his vast knowledge about the mathematics underlying in art, architecture, music, ethnography, and a host of other disciplines. He wrote books such as Africa Plus Mathematics and the Da Vinci Code's Bag, P & Co. And he was the editor of the Mathematical Tourist at the prestigious American magazine, The Mathematical Intelligencer. Huylebrouck writes regularly for journals, and his contributions to the media are numerous, especially in Belgium and the Netherlands. Some of them deserving international attention from CNN, BBC, Le Monde, etc., being the most recent, the one to the Scientific American, in which he has uncovered an error in one of Leonardo da Vinci's star-shaped polyhedra, which was demonstrated last Monday, just when he was with us. After the conference, Huylebrouck gave an interview to Sabuco TV, and here it goes.
Good evening, Mr. Dirk. What are the main differences between teaching in Africa and teaching in Brussels?
Main difference, I think, well, in Africa it's warm, it's hot, and in Brussels it's cold and it rains. That's the main difference. But there are other differences. In Africa you have wars. I was there during the genocide in Rwanda. and with President Mobutu there were troubles. While in Brussels you only have wars with words, not with arms.
Could you tell us something about Isango?
Ishango is a village in the heart of Africa, at the sources of the Nile. So that would make it just an ordinary village. But what is more interesting is that in that village, 50 years ago, was found the oldest object of mathematics. And it's called the Ishango rod. And indeed, as I just said, it's the oldest object that mathematicians recognize as being a mathematical object. And since it was found in the center of Africa, it changes our view on mathematics, on the history of mathematics. Because we always think mathematics was invented in Greece, or maybe Egypt, or the Middle East, or if you want, India and China. But Black Africa, the center of Africa, also plays a role. And actually, the oldest object, 22,000 years ago, comes from Africa. So that's what makes it so peculiar. Ishango, the village, and an object that was found there, the Ishango rod.
We have heard you are a very busy man, but what do you do in your free time, if you have any?
In my free time I do some jogging, actually rather a lot. I run, let's say, 2 times a week, and when there's no teaching, even every day. Because when you do mathematics, you sit all the time. So it's important to make the blood circulate in your body.
How does it feel being the editor of the article The Mathematical Tourist in the American magazine, The Mathematical Intelligencer?
Well, it's very interesting because when you do a column like The Mathematical Tourist, you get in contact with all kinds of sites and locations that are of interest for a mathematician. The Mathematical Tourist column is about, well, imagine a mathematician goes to Valencia, to Madrid, to Albacete. What can he see here? What can he do? A mathematician can be interested in soccer, of course, but as a mathematician, what can he see? Are there important mathematicians in Valencia who died there? Are there important mathematical surfaces in wherever he is on visit? So this way I get in touch with a lot of sightseeing, a lot of interesting topics in different cities. We had columns about mathematical tourism in Tibet, or even in Siberia, you wouldn't imagine that. And of course in Africa with the Ishango bond. This is how I got engaged in this column. So that's what makes it interesting, because you would be surprised that in many countries you can find so many interesting things to see for mathematicians. By the way, maybe I should abuse the opportunity here to say that we are still interested in mathematical tourist aspects in South America. For one strange reason, we have very few contributions about South America, about Argentina, Brazil, and so on. So if ever somebody knows somebody from Brazil or Argentina, I would be most happy to have a contribution about South America.
Why did you take up mathematics?
Well, I took mathematics actually because, well, that was a long time ago. Why did I take it? Because I went to Canada and then I came back and it was too late to enroll to become engineer. And first I wanted to be a pilot, but then I had an infection in my eye. So I did all the tests, it was okay, but then because of that infection I couldn't enroll to become a pilot in the army. That was not possible. So finally, the only thing that was left was mathematics. So I took mathematics. It's not a good reason. It's not the answer you expect, but it's the truth.
You were awarded the 2002 Lesterford Prize by the American Mathematical Association for your contribution to the theory on the numbers. But your specialty is linear algebra, isn't it?
Yes, well indeed, that Lesterford was about zeta 3. Well, I did linear algebra, but then for a while, because I went to Africa and so on, I forgot about the linear algebra. And so I said, what else could I do? And then one of the most famous things in mathematics, the most famous problems, is the Riemann hypothesis. Don't ask me to explain the Riemann hypothesis, but it's the most famous open problem in mathematics. And it's about the functions called the zeta functions. And, well, like any mountain climber, sometimes you get ambitious and you say, well, now I will try to climb the Mount Everest. So I said, I will become interested in the Riemann hypothesis. I didn't go to the top of the Mount Everest. I went just in the very first village. So I did a little contribution about zeta 3, not really something spectacular. But since you're asking me the question, this is the answer.
Is the atomium in Brussels badly built?
Well, the atomium, is it badly built? Well, actually, it was perfectly built. It was perfect some 30, well, more than 30, almost 50 years ago, in 58. And as you know, the atomium is like the Eiffel Tower for Brussels. But what happened at a certain time, so 4 years ago, they had to restore it, they had to repair it. And they decided to make a complete reparation of the atomium. And then they made some mistakes. Then they made the mistake that, for instance, there was a square covering on one of the spheres of the atomium that they couldn't fit. So instead of a square, they put a trapezoid. And there was, instead of a hexagon, a regular hexagon, they put just anything that was with 6 sides. So all the spheres of the atomium, and as you may know, there are 9 spheres in the atomium, 9 spheres. They are all perfect except one, because there was one that they had to finish very quickly, because the politicians said, oh, tomorrow we have to open the restoration, we have to finish it. So they just put anything, they covered it with whatever, and it has stayed like that. And when a Japanese tourist or an American tourist or a Spanish tourist, because here in Spain they make such perfect buildings, really perfect, when they come to Brussels and they see that sphere, they start to laugh. They say, is that all that the Belgians can do? It's really funny. And also, the way in which the spheres were covered, before they were covered spherically, but now they are covered with a kind of, material, inox, a kind of steel, with big plates. So, but it's plenty of, it's not regular. It's like a car that had an accident, you know. In a car with an accident, you can see yourself with different curves. Well, in the atomium too, you have different curves. It's not smooth anymore. So there are 2 mistakes. One of the spheres is covered by irregular polygons, and the whole atomium is covered by irregular mirrors. So it's really, and it's the building of which we should be proud in Belgium. So it's a bit a shame. It's a shame.
Where have you been best welcomed by mathematicians?
Well, the answer should be diplomatic, I think. So the answer will be in Albacete. I hope you're happy with this answer.
Do you think the level of knowledge of mathematics in Spain is good?
Of course, it's difficult to answer such a question, being from Belgium, but you could look at, for instance, international competitions. You could compare the studies made by the UNESCO and so on. But those statistics, they don't say much. I mean, it's a matter of interpretation very often. But what I can say is that when I go to conferences, I see as many good Spanish participants, sometimes even the best, as there are American participants, or as there are participants from other countries. So as far as I can see about the research done by Spanish mathematicians, I would say it's, as good or as bad as Belgian mathematicians. Who am I to judge about this?
Could you give us some advice to take an interest on math?
Well, my goal is actually not that everybody becomes a mathematician. That's not the goal. It's like saying that everyone should become a marathon runner. You don't want that. But the goal is, people should at least say, people who run a marathon, well, okay, they do something, they are good sportsmen. So the goal is not that everyone becomes, let's say, a soccer player, but everyone thinks that soccer, well, most people think that soccer is funny, it's good to look at, they appreciate it. So maybe for mathematics too, people should start to appreciate the work of the mathematicians, not to become a mathematician themselves, but at least to appreciate it. Now, liking mathematics or disliking it is a personal matter, just as you can like to run marathons or not like it. And why would you like it? Why would you like mathematics? I can explain that, but it's as difficult as to explain to somebody who never played tennis why playing tennis is interesting. So it's hard to explain why. What I could say, and what I think is important, is that you could consider mathematics as an art form. People often ask me, should we study mathematics because of this or that application, because it's useful for this or for that? No, you can also see it as an art form. And then sometimes it has applications. So it's an art form with a very big advantage that sometimes there are applications. So people never ask, why should we become a musician? Some people will never be a musician. Some will, because they like it. But mathematics, in contrast to music or to painting or whatever, has another advantage, that very often it is useful as well.
Tomorrow you will be lecturing at our university on the subject, Are mathematics allowed in Islam? Why that title? Why that topic?
Well, yes, I thought it was a good idea to talk about the subject of mathematics being halal or haram, especially here in Albacete, to talk about algebra and algorithms. And so this was the idea. The idea is, of course, also because in Belgium, and I think in Spain as well, we have many young Muslims who come to the big cities, and in the big cities they often lack engineers and technicians. And what they see is that young people from Arab countries or from Turkey, they don't do technical, they don't do jobs, or they don't become engineers. And it's a surprise that in the first year of mathematics, for instance in Brussels, you will find 0 young people from Arab countries, while there are maybe 40% of the young people in Brussels is Arab. And another 10% is Turkish. So where are they? Where are they? And why? Why don't they do those mathematics? Why are 50% of all the big names we know in mathematics, why are they Jewish? And why is it so difficult to find recent, and I'm saying recent big names from Arab countries in mathematics? So it are those topics. Now, let there be no misunderstanding. I don't have the answer. I'm not an extremist, not at all. I just wonder about these facts that I see. And if somebody will give me the answers tomorrow, I will be very happy.
Thanks for coming to our TV studio, Mr. Dick.
So, thank you. And, well, after these days in Spain, I would say gracias. And maybe see you next year. Or let me conclude by saying hasta la vista, Albacete.